So, welcome back to this week's episode of Selfless Littl Gaming. We are on episode number 11 right now, which is pretty exciting. We broke double digits. I'm Selfless Gaming. To my left here is Little Jacob. You can find my socials on Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, obviously. And I actually have the Hoover app for gaming, but something different. Well, Jacob, go ahead and throw your stuff out there.
Hey guys, what's up, Little Jacob? That's Little with the 3 instead of an E at the end. Jakob. And you can also find me on TikTok, Twitter, and Twitch primarily. And it's good to be back. We have a lot of stuff to talk about actually in the time given. There's a lot of stuff that happened over the weekend and college football rankings and yeah, a lot of good games coming up.
A lot of big weeks ahead. Next few weeks are going to definitely be pretty crazy. A lot of stuff can happen. Or nothing can happen. So, beauty of sports. You never know.
Yeah.
We have some exciting news. The Lions did not lose. They did not lose this past weekend.
They finally did not lose.
They didn't win, but they didn't lose. So, it's part of it. So, how was your weekend, man? Did you have a good weekend?
Yeah, it was a pretty good weekend. Got to catch some of the college games, barbecued a bit. So definitely, if anyone's ever out in San Antonio, Texas, come check out Blues Pit Barbecue. We'll be smoking some briskets up for Saturday and Sunday. So yeah, that, and then of course Sunday was a good game. Had the Cowboys out there kicking the snot out of the Falcons after that loss that we took last week. So that was a good way to respond. So yeah, pretty good weekend thus far. How about your weekend?
It wasn't bad, man. We didn't really do too much this weekend. Just kind of hung out and relaxed a little bit.
Save money.
If I ever do get a chance to go out in San Antonio, I think the first priority I'm going to have is putting booze meat in my mouth. I think that's number one priority. So, but no, it's a pretty chill weekend. You know, I got this week, and then next week I'll be off work for a week, but basically Thursday through Saturday I'll be going to see like family and stuff for Thanksgiving, to see my grandmother and everything. So. Well, let's get kicked off into it, my guy. So college football rankings came out on Tuesday this week. Nothing changed. The top 8 didn't move. Still got Georgia at 1, Bama at 2, Oregon 3, Ohio State 4, Cincinnati 5, Michigan 6, Michigan State 7, Notre Dame 8. You do have Wake Forest now breaking the top 10, and we do have Oklahoma State now breaking number 9. Oklahoma choked, and they fell pretty hard, to be honest.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are actually like calling that Oklahoma hadn't really played a ton of people yet, and they're actually getting into like more of the meat and strength of their schedule now. And Baylor was 8-2 going into that game, or 7-2 going into that game. But honestly, Baylor's one of the better teams in the conference. So I kind of said with my buddies a while back ago, if Oklahoma's going to stumble, I didn't think it was going to be against like Texas or Oklahoma State. Baylor's always played them pretty well. So I kind of could see that coming a little bit. But Wake Forest is the only shot the ACC has at potentially making the college football playoffs, but they need a lot of help. They need a lot of things to happen in front of them.
Yeah.
What did you think as far as performances from this past week? Do you think there's any team that actually like kind of showed a lot more? Because, you know, the committee kind of looks into style points now, like how much are you beating your opponent by? How did you handle your opponent? They compare who you played, but then like similar teams, like they played, like this team played that team as well, and they looked way better than that team did. Like everything that kind of stood out to you.
Yeah, I actually think Ohio State played really darn good football this past weekend. I thought they did really well. They have an opportunity now. They're going to play a really good team. The game that they're going to have, that they can beat the Spartans, I think that's going to, in my opinion, right, because they're ranked what? They're ranked number 4. I really feel like if they can put a good game together against the Spartans, they definitely deserve to be in that top three selection there of the rankings. They really played well. I think they played better than a number ranked 4 spot. And if they can continue that, I mean, like I said, I don't see why they can't be in the top three. Maybe even take away that position from Alabama. Because I mean, let's look at it like this: Alabama, who's they going to play? They're going to play. Let me see here.
I think they have Auburn left on their schedule. Arkansas, yeah, they have Arkansas this week,
Okay, Arkansas,
and then they
and that's a
have
team they should beat.
Auburn is their rivalry game, like last game of the week of the regular.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so Alabama's playing the team essentially. That's a team that they should be able to beat, versus looks like the Buckeyes they're gonna be playing a really good team, even though they're favored. Michigan State Spartans are still a really good football team, and I think if they put a good performance on, like they did this past weekend, that they definitely deserve to take that ranking spot. From Alabama, number 2. I don't see why that wouldn't be the case if they can win another game. I mean, this is their 7th game in a row that they've won, and they've been trending up. So yeah, that was one team that really stuck out to me as someone that should be in the top 3, and definitely I don't see how they won't be if they can win this game this Saturday.
So obviously, like if anybody knows me, I'm a big Ohio State guy. So I'm always biased to them. Like I always think they should be great, but I'm also like a realistic fan with that aspect of it too. Um, we have a very young team, and in the beginning of the season, there was a lot of questions. I feel like this team's answered a lot of those questions, but they have played now. I'll just throw this out there, but they played Oregon when Oregon was ranked 12th, lost to them.
This is where we hold them.
Played Penn State.
This is where we
the past 3 weeks.
This is where they die. Army Shield boys.
What up, Mole? Thanks for that raid, homie. Appreciate you. Hope you had a good stream. In the last 3 weeks, this is who the Buckeyes have played. They played number 20 Penn State. They beat them by 9. Penn State's kind of fallen off. They played at Nebraska. They won by 9 there. Nebraska, though, surprisingly, a lot of people like Nebraska's has not been very good this year. They're 3-7 in the conference, but Nebraska's past 4 games, they've lost 32-29, 30-23, 28-23, 26-17. Like they're right there competing with the top teams in the conference. So to give you an even more like example or better example, they played Michigan State. They lost to Michigan State by 3, who's ranked 7th in the country. Michigan is ranked number 6 in the country. They lost to them by 4. They lost to Ohio State, who's ranked 4th in the country, lost to them by 9. So their record doesn't look very appealing, but the team, like Nebraska, has come a long way under Scott Frost.
Yeah.
Then you had Purdue, who went out and beat Michigan State, and Ohio State put an absolute beating on them. They beat them by 28 points. They looked really good. They looked like, in my mind, like offensively, we kind of hit like a little bit of a skid. But now we're like back to where we're at. This next week, though, to your point, if they can beat Michigan State, they can go and beat Michigan the week after, and then they can win out the Big Ten championship. I don't see how the committee could not put them at number 2 with the last like 4 weeks of their schedule. I actually saw a statistic where it was going into the Purdue game. They said that if Ohio State wins out, they will have played 6 ranked teams for the rest of their season. No other like school in the country is doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know, but you know how this stuff plays out, man. Like it's one of those things where they got to take care of their business, and basically like handle what they can handle. So.
I'm really too. I'm really I know I said it the last time. I was really proud of the UTSA here, the local teams, Roadrunners for getting 23. They jumped up to 15. I mean, that's great for those kids, man. They work really hard and they're doing good things for the city and the team. So big shout outs to the UTSA Roadrunners, ranked 15 in the nation.
Yeah, they're up there, man.
They have not lost a game. They're looking great. I hope they continue to, climbing up there and get the best and hopefully get into a bowl game. I mean, that'll be huge for them if they can get that accomplishment. especially from where this football program has started. From a few years ago, being a really small school here in San Antonio, we don't really have the biggest football programs as far as like just the ranking in the state alone. So
Yeah.
the fact that we have a football program that's ranked in the nation, I mean, that's a pretty huge accomplishment for us here. So a big shout out to those kids, man. I hope they continue to do great things, and I'm sure they will. And on top of that, they're also getting a really good higher education. You know, you
True.
love to see it.
Very true.
Sports, college, it's a
Um,
great time.
so Body says Cowboys for the win.
Yeah,
In chat, he's all about it.
there you go.
And then Bree, I guess she's about the sports. She said, "Oh, the sports are on." So we do this every Wednesday, Bree. We have our little sports podcast here. We're talking about college, and then we're going to talk about NFL. We'll talk about fantasy football related like items as far as who to start, who to sit, things like that. Usually every Wednesday, though. What is a team, though? Let's see, like what your thoughts are on this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like there's a team that? Let me just throw this scenario out. Okay, Ohio State wins out.
Yeah.
All right, so say they win out, they're going to be in. Let's say Alabama beats Georgia and hands Georgia their first loss in the SEC championship game. And then you got Oregon sitting there at number, like they win out their conference. You got Cincinnati, who goes undefeated, and they are ranked number 2 in the country until the playoffs came out, and they're sitting there at 5. What do you think about, like, because that scenario very well could happen.
Yeah.
What kind of rankings do you see at that point? Because that's at the end of the season. That's when they're going to announce the bowl games after all those games. Like, you think Cincinnati could slide in there, or you think they're getting left out?
I mean, let's say most of these teams went out. Cincinnati could slide in there, but I mean, let's be honest. With the Buckeyes and of course Alabama and the Georgia, the way they're playing and they continue to play, I don't see them getting the chance to slide in there. I think at the end of the day, what everybody's expecting is to see the rankings be a lot similar to right now, but I don't see Cincinnati being up there at number 2 anymore. If these teams win out, bigger schools playing better teams and having more dominant performances on a more consistent basis, I don't know that Cincinnati is going to get the slide into this year. It kind of sucks to have to do that with a football team that is playing well, but when you have these other powerhouse teams like Georgia, like Alabama, like Ohio State, it's a really tough decision to make. But I mean, it's going to come down to whatever the committee ranks it at. But I think we're pretty seasoned to know ahead of time of how the committee ranks these football teams, especially based on the teams and some kind of bias that they have, of course.
So the reason I brought that up is because we talked about this today at work.
Yeah.
And one of my buddies was talking about the SEC and like how strong the conference in the SEC was this year. And I said, like, the SEC is not that great of a conference this year. And he went off the rails. Like, I'm in SEC country, so whenever I say that, people go off the rails. And I was like, no offense, but like, Georgia is in the East. Okay, Georgia has a winning record. This is the rest of the conference for the East. You have Kentucky, okay, who's not known for football. They've like past 4 or 5 years, they've really gotten better with their program, and I love what Mark Stoops is doing there. I'm local, like growing up here, kind of like where I met my wife and everything, and like kind of being a part of the like sports program, being around Kentucky fans. There were some very dark days for Kentucky football. Like, it was not good times when it was the fall. But you got Georgia, who's 10-0, 8-0 in the conference. Kentucky is 5-3. Everyone else, Tennessee, Missouri, South Carolina, Florida, Vanderbilt, all have losing records.
Yeah, they're not very good.
Okay. Then you go down to the West. You have Alabama at 5-1, Ole Miss 4-2, Mississippi State 4-3, Texas A&M 4-3. The rest of them have losing records. And I brought up the fact, I said, they're not going to kick Georgia out of the playoffs if they lose to Alabama. But I don't see how you can warrant with how bad the East division is this year, and that's who Georgia's had to play. If they go and say they play Alabama in the SC championship, and let's say they get throttled by them, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how you can warrant them going to number 2, because to
No.
me that's kind of more of a reflection of, okay, maybe this team wasn't as solid as we thought they were. Maybe their division is just really bad. I'd say that they can't like compete for national championship, but if they lose by like, I don't know, like 28 points to Alabama in the SEC championship game, that'd be a big red flag to me. And we kind of went back and forth on it, and I was like, I think they still stay in the playoffs, but like I don't see them going from 1 to 2, like maybe 1 to 3, something like that. I don't know, but it's an interesting conversation we had, um, looking at that scenario, because that division's pretty bad. Like usually Florida's a lot better, South Carolina's better. Um, they're pretty sorry division.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, even at the college level, I mean, at the pro level, when you have a team that's in a division or a conference or what have you, that's not very good, but they're playing really well. Um, unless you're beating or significantly beating good teams, a lot of the time you're going to get questioned on how good is this team really. So I mean, that does make sense. I mean, we're going to find out, what they're really made of when it comes down to it here pretty soon. But yeah, you're right. I mean, if they were to just get beat pretty bad, they don't deserve to be in that top spot when they are playing another top team, and they underperform.
Yeah,
And that's the thing with college football. If for anyone that doesn't know, it's the way they judge it. It's not. I don't want to say so much it's opinion, but there's a lot of factors that go into how the teams are ranked, no matter how good they play during the year.
yeah,
If that makes sense, because there's so many teams and so many programs, so many different divisions, and all the different states and all parts of the United States. So they really do start to get really particular about who you're playing, how well did you play,
yeah.
and what kind of teams have you been playing. And it's just like a whole mix of things. But yeah, I mean, that makes sense. If they were to lose really bad based on the teams that they do play on a regular basis, they don't deserve to be in the top spot if they were to lose really bad, because they're not a top team based on that kind of performance. If they perform bad, that is.
Yeah. I also think too, if Alabama loses to Georgia, having 2 losses, I think out of all the scenarios that are possible, I think from number 2 down, like Bama, Oregon, Ohio State, one of those teams has to lose and be out of the running. But it also depends on when they lose. So, like, for
Yeah.
example, I think if Alabama wins out the rest of the regular season and they lose in the SEC championship game, then I think Cincinnati can slide in there. Same thing with Ohio State. If they lose in their championship game, I think they move down, Cincinnati moves up. Now, if you got, say, Michigan State beats Ohio State this weekend and they beat them pretty good, now all of a sudden, like, they may leapfrog Cincinnati and, jump in there. But I think it's kind of the timing of the loss, too, if there is to happen. So there's just a lot. There's so many things that go on this time of
Yeah.
year. That's why I love it. Like anything can happen.
Win-lose scenarios, how well the teams do.
Yeah,
We're
it's fun. It's
a
exciting,
lot
but
of
it's
theories that
also
you can go through. Yeah.
stressful. It's very stressful. All right, so transitioning over to the NFL,
Mhm.
I just want to say that Mahomes finally played like Mahomes.
Yeah, finally.
He freaking stepped up and did what he's more than capable of doing, and I absolutely smashed my opponent this week. Actually, everybody on my team had a pretty good week so far. But yeah, he played like he should
Like we're
have.
used to seeing him play. Yeah.
That made a huge difference in the outcome of my game. Who stood out on your team this week?
Of course, definitely one of the players that stood out that I want to say outside of like someone that would normally dominate, like Tyreek Hill, which of course he had a great game.
Mm,
On the Eagles, Devante Smith, he played at my flex. I mean, really, he was one of the big reasons why I even won this game, especially with how bad Stafford played Monday night and threw 2 interceptions and everything. He played really well. 2 touchdowns. He was all over the field and performed really well for me. So I was really happy about that. Um, so yeah, we're gonna see how it goes this year or this next week. Um, yeah, with that game for the Chiefs, that was a very important game. It was a division game, and based on that game was going to determine who's going to be first place in the division, and because of that, they're first place now.
Yeah.
Yeah, at 6-4, everyone else is 4, and they
That whole
man,
division like flipped. Like if the Chargers were up there for so long, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, the Raiders took over. Now it's the Chiefs are back in front. That division's wild this year, honestly.
yeah, it's just kind of going back and forth. Um, Man, just looking at the score for the game, as far as fantasy, I only scored 119 points. Man, I'm lucky to have won that game just because I don't know why the other guy played, he wasn't paying attention, but DeAndre Hopkins sat out and he had him starting, so that was 0 points.
Oh,
The
gotcha.
Raiders got dumped on defensively, so that's -5 points for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically what saved my day. Devante Smith with his 22 points. He had 4 catches for 2 touchdowns, and then you had Tyreek Hill being Tyreek Hill, 7 catches and 2 touchdowns.
Dude, he's nuts, man. Like when he freaking goes off, he goes off.
Yeah, so it's definitely going to be a good game this weekend with Dallas going to Kansas City, and that
Ooh, they're
offense.
at
So
Kansas City this weekend?
yeah, they actually have to go to Arrowhead Stadium, so that's going to be the toughest game. I knew that beginning of the year, this was going to be one of the toughest games we're going to have all year. Even though the Chiefs haven't played as well as we were expecting them to, I
Yeah.
still know that how well their offense is capable of performing. Um, Hopefully, we can expose their defense the way that other teams have been, and
I think you guys will be
hopefully
all right.
force turnovers. Yeah,
Actually,
but I think it'll be a good game. I don't think it's going to be one-sided. I think it'll be close. I'm hoping that if everything gets done the way we're supposed to do it, maybe we'll win by like 10 or 7. I'm hoping that's my hope.
I like the Cowboys in that game. I think
Yeah.
defensively, with what y'all have shown this year, they did there's like a statistical breakdown, and
Mhm.
whose defenses had like 13% success rate when they would blitz Mahomes, and majority of the teams this year have been playing like 75 to 80% zone, and that's what he's been like struggling against.
Yeah.
And you guys mix it up pretty well, and your secondary's like come a long way since last year. So I actually like the Cowboys. I think your offense will definitely be able to produce points for you against their defense, but your defense is a lot. Like if it was last year, it'd be a coin flip. Like I think it'd just be a
Yeah.
shootout. But this year, I actually like the Cowboys in that game, even if it is at Arrowhead.
Yeah, and I mean it's going to be a tough game, but it's definitely going to be a tough game. But man, it's the level that they're playing with, especially on offense, is really awesome. And another crazy stat that I saw is that Dak Prescott leads the NFL with 16 passing touchdowns versus the blitz, which is the most that any quarterback has this year. No quarterback has more than I think 8 or 9.
It's pretty damn
So
good.
even with pressure in his face, he's still getting the ball where it needs to be and in the end zone. So that's a good thing that's going to help. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is. I mean, he's always going to be great. But I think that if we can apply pressure to him like other teams have, and really get after it, we can cause some turnovers, and that would be the best chance. Because I mean, on average, we've usually been getting turnovers every game, and definitely most of the games that we have got turnovers, aside from Tampa Bay, we've won those football games. So
Yeah.
that's going to be a really good game. It's going to be the game of the week, I think, coming up. So
I mean,
hopefully,
honestly, there's only one like NFC team that really matters, and that's the Cowboys.
yeah,
That's it. Like the Packers don't matter, the Rams don't matter.
yeah, I
Oh,
agree.
hey Nikki, how are you today? How you doing? He's a big Packers fan. What like Darren Williams pop off for me? He ended up,
Williams.
yeah, he ended up with 9 out of 9 receptions for 101 yards and a touchdown for Kansas City. But then the weird stat line I had was Zeke had 14 carries, 41 yards, not very good, but he had 2 touchdowns. He had 3 receptions and a fumble. He still got me like 18 points with those touchdowns and
Yeah,
everything. Tony Pollard had a good game though, but he's on my bench. He actually played pretty well. He had a good stat line, just no touchdowns. But yeah, Mahomes went 35 of 50 for 406 yards and 5 touchdowns. Like that's a stupid number. That's literally Madden numbers. You can have your cowgirls. I would love a cowgirl. Yay. That wasn't me, by the way. People listening to the podcast, that was Nikki in my chat that said that. Just read that message.
And also, guys, I'm sorry I was wrong last week 110% about Russell Wilson. I didn't know he was
Oh, bro, yeah.
just have a god awful game, which is, to be fair, uncharacteristic of him.
Wasn't that like the first time he's been shut out in his career? Wasn't there something like wild like that?
That was just no. I don't think anyone expected that.
It's pretty crazy, man. That he's been playing.
I'm sorry.
He's been playing like that long, and that's the first time he's been shut out.
It happens at some point, I guess, right? It happens sooner or later.
I'm not blaming it on you. I just said that message was from you, and I was reading it. Because poor little Timmy sitting behind his computer here listening to the Selfless Little Gaming podcast hears something about cowgirls and yippee-ki-yay, like. But whatever, Timmy, do you, okay? All right, starting and sitting this week. Who do you like starting-wise?
Starting-wise, for quarterbacks, definitely two quarterbacks I would start that I think are going to light up the scoreboard. I got Ryan Tannehill against the Texans. The Texans have been the Texans all year. They don't have much of a defense. I think Ryan Tannehill is going to really go out there and take command of that offense and throw for 300 or more and at least 3 touchdowns, I would think, especially with the receiving core he has back there. They don't have, of course, Derrick Henry anymore, so passing is going to be the primary option for them. So definitely if you want to get points on the board, Ryan Tannehill is a good one to go with. Also, Joe Burrow against the Raiders.
I like that one.
A good game there for him. He's getting like 20 points or so a game, and against the Raiders, especially the way their defense got tore up this past weekend, I think that the Bengals are going to look to take an advantage of that as
Plus,
well.
they had a bye week last week, so they should be fresh.
Yeah. Also, if you're going to sit somebody, I would not start. I would definitely sit Baker Mayfield. He's just not in good shape at all. He had a rough game. He's really banged up. He might not even be able to stay through that whole game if he gets hit one or two ways too wrong. He'll get taken out of that one. So I would definitely look at sitting him. Jimmy Garoppolo, I also don't like starting against the Jags. I know it's one of the Jaguars, but Jimmy didn't really have the best game either, even though they beat the Rams. But that was mostly defense and Deebo Samuel just running all over them because they couldn't stop him to save their lives. So
he's good, man.
I would refrain from starting Jimmy Garoppolo because I don't see him having a huge point output, in my opinion, anyways. For running backs, running backs, of course, I'm going to start Leonard Fournette against the Giants. That's a no-brainer. They're on the offense of Tom Brady. I'm sure he's looking to bounce back. All of them are. They've lost 2 in a row, which is kind of crazy. Last team you expect to lose 2 in a row. But I see them coming back big time against the Giants. Also, if you got a Myles Gaskin, the Dolphins, I think, are going to be able to put some good running numbers up against the Jets. They're 2-7. They're not doing well. He's getting at least 15 touches a game. And they've also allowed the most yards and touchdowns to running backs this year. The Jets. So Myles Gaskin.
The Jets are starting Joe Flacco this week.
Yeah.
They've already called the game. They're throwing it. The fact that you are starting Joe Flacco as your quarterback, you are not trying to win this week.
He's not the Joe Flacco that won the Super Bowl, okay, guys? I just want you to know he's not that guy anymore.
Definitely not that
guy. Sit him. One guy you want to sit. Now, believe it or not, guys, as I'm not just saying this because it's my team that they're playing, but Clyde Edwards from the Chiefs, I wouldn't start him against Dallas, not against his defense. I just don't see him as a good fantasy option, especially because he didn't do so well against the Raiders. He's coming up against a much better defense. Even though we don't have our full healthy starting defensive line, when you got guys like Micah Parsons out there just running sideline to sideline and tracking down ball carriers, a guy like Clyde Edwards isn't going to get too much done out there. I would say him and Devante Booker aren't going to do too well this week. So sit those guys as far as running backs concerned. Man, receivers, wide receivers, I really feel like CeeDee Lamb, and I'm not just trying to just keep on promoting the Cowboys out there, but I feel like CeeDee Lamb is really just one of those
It's
guys
in the Cowboys podcast, bro. You got to talk about other
that's blowing
players.
up right now. And if you have CeeDee Lamb, you can start him. You need to start CeeDee Lamb. I mean, the guy is getting at least a touchdown a game.
Yeah.
He has multiple games with 2 touchdowns. He's getting the catches, and he's getting a lot of rack after the catch too, yards per carry after the catch. That's a really good choice right there to start. Shoot, you know what? Even Devante Smith, I normally wouldn't want to promote an Eagle player, but Devante Smith has been doing great for me as well. If you are able to start him this weekend against the Saints, that's another really good option. He's gotten better as the weeks have gone by. So I am glad that I took the chance on him to pick him up. He's really coming into his own on that offense, even though they're so-and-so a lot of the time. And Jalen Hurts is another story, but Devante Smith's a good option. Then you got DJ Moore against Washington. Those are some pretty good options to start. Sitting them, I think, man, you know what? T.Y. Hilton, I think against the Bills is probably someone you might want to consider sitting. Hilton made his return last week. He only had 1 catch in the win over Jacksonville. It doesn't look too good. It's seeing that he's going to be against that Bills defense. T.Y. Hilton's probably not going to have a whole lot of success this weekend. And normally he's someone that you could see starting, but I wouldn't start him this game.
For me this week, well, first, I want to make a comment to Kia's comment to my previous comment. She said, "Don't make me get Kaboosh in here." And Nikki, no offense, but the day that Kaboosh could handle me is the day that I am laying flat on my back in blue because I've died. Moving on. Fight, Bree. All right. Who I am starting this week as far as quarterbacks. I like Lamar Jackson. I actually think he's going to have...
The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is
I think he's going to have pretty...
The champ is here!
To be honest. I'll tell you another quarterback you may want to snag but not start. Cam Newton. I think Cam Newton, with the new coach they have that came from Baylor, I can't think of it. I'm drawing a blank. I think his offensive scheme fits Cam Newton's style way better than what Rivera's did and what they did around him. I think Cam also, he's kind of comfortable with that organization. He obviously got drafted there. He knows, what they expect. And there's no pressure on him because he wasn't the starter. He's not the franchise quarterback anymore. He can just come in, play, do what he needs to do. And if things go great, he looks amazing. If they go bad, it's he can just be like, I was out. I was sitting on the sidelines at my house 2 months ago, I think he's absolutely in a win-win. I wouldn't start him, though, against Washington. Even though Washington did lose Chase Young. I don't know. I never got an update on that, but they think he might have tore his ACL, which sucks.
I had to pick up an emergency quarterback, so I actually did grab Cam Newton off that free agency list.
I think it's solid.
He looked really good with the Panthers, and I don't know. And it's he's nothing like the quarterback he was in New England. I don't know if it was just Bill Belichick's scheme, Bill Belichick, or what, but he looks like old Cam Newton this past game, and with McCaffrey out there. But you're right. Maybe not start against Washington. The reason I got him is because Stafford has a bye week. Murray is still questionable, but he says he's really close to being ready to play.
Kyler Murray?
It's going to be between now and Friday, whether or not he does. So worst case scenario, I have to start Cam. But yeah, that's exactly who I picked up because I was thinking the same thing that you're thinking.
I like Lamar Jackson. I would definitely pick up Cam Newton if you need a reserve. I do like Joe Burrow, though, to your comment. And to be honest, dude, I'm putting in Dak Prescott. If I have Dak Prescott, he's starting. First off, he should have been starting all year, but rest of the year, the dude's in. Their offense is clicking on all cylinders, man. I think he actually has, just from a knowledge standpoint of the game and seeing how people develop and progress, I think he actually has a true understanding of the offense. And I feel like he, in his career right now, the game has slowed down so much for him that his just his processing and his reads are so good right now. And I think everybody actually has an understanding of their role within the team. What I mean by that is for the past 2-3 years, you had all these contract discussions of, oh, is Zeke going to get his money? Is Dak going to get his money? What about Amari Cooper? How are they going to be able to pay these guys? You haven't been hearing any of that stuff this year, and you're seeing their production value out there on the field. And I think these guys, collectively as a unit, all that's behind them. It's just purely football and business moving forward. But I really like where the Cowboys are at right now, personally. Running backs, I actually like Joe Mixon against the Las Vegas Raiders. I think he's a huge 3-down back. He's very versatile. I'm definitely starting him. I also like Nick Chubb against Detroit. I think with Baker Mayfield's struggles, they're just going to let him run. They're just going to feed him and just let him go. As far as wide receivers go, Stephon Diggs, definitely putting him out there against Indianapolis. I like what he's bringing to the table.
Absolutely.
Bree, thank you for this 27 bit. Thank you. Stephon Diggs, I like this week. I actually like Jalen Waddle for Miami against New York. I think they're really trying to get him more and more in a dynamic set in their offense and get him the ball as much as possible. I also want to throw out Rob Gronkowski. New York Giants have struggled against tight ends. I think Rob Gronkowski is going to have a decent day. If he doesn't, if you don't have him, I would also look at OJ Howard because OJ Howard's actually been starting to get more production out of them. And then as far as defenses go, I would definitely start the Bucs defense if you got them. And then a defense, if you can pick up, some people they do week to weeks. I would actually look at possibly doing San Francisco's defense. I doubt they'll be available for you, but if they are, they're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. Their defense is starting to click again. Ones I'm avoiding this week, quarterbacks I'm avoiding. I'm avoiding Matt Ryan. I think he's got a rough 2 weeks in a row. I'm avoiding Baker Mayfield, as you brought up earlier. Running backs I'm avoiding. I actually don't like Jonathan Taylor this week. I don't know why, but I feel like the Bills' rush defense is really good.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough game for Indianapolis all over. They're really going to get after wins in that offense for sure. Even though they're 6-3, they're still a really good football team for sure.
I'd also avoid Austin Eckler. I don't think he's going to be very productive for the Chargers as far as running backs go. And then as far as quarterbacks, or not quarterbacks, but wide receivers, I think Devante Adams, I feel like he's actually going to not have that great of a game this week going against Minnesota. These teams know each other really well. Historically, Devante Adams has either stupid stat numbers against Minnesota, or he's been a non-factor in these games. And with it being at Minnesota, I think this is just going to be one of those weeks where they're going to really lock him down and not allow Rodgers to beat him. I think Aaron Jones is going to get more production value this week than Devante Adams. Another one I think is going to struggle with this week is DK Metcalf. I think DK Metcalf's going to struggle against Arizona. Their defense has come a long way, and I actually like Arizona a lot in that game. So that's my stardom and sit 'em. Now it's even. I don't have to. Wait, what? Now it's even, and I don't have to have a twitching eye. What the hell does that mean, Bree? I don't even know what you just said there. Do you know why the Vikings' primary color is purple? If you choked for that long, you'd be purple too. Oh my god.
Man, I actually taking a look here.
Wow, Bree. I like it.
The last time they played, so it looks like they owe them some payback because it was 28-22. And it's always interesting because it seems like even when the even when Minnesota's not playing like very well throughout the year, is when for whatever reason, whenever they play the Packers, it's just usually more of a slugfest that comes out of it.
Yes.
Which
Yeah.
is exciting for football fans too. But yeah, it's usually a slugfest. So Aaron Rodgers is 14-9-1 in his career versus the Vikings. That's interesting. So he's definitely won more than he's lost, and then you got a tie there. So it's usually a really good game. That's definitely a good one to watch. It'll be a nice warm-up game before this Dallas Chiefs game to watch for sure.
So Bree said to the eye twitching thing, she said my bits were uneven and it was bothering her. So thank you. Thank you for fixing your issue with your bits. Thank you for the shout out there, Tetsuya. Appreciate that. Do you know what the Minnesota Twins and Minnesota Vikings have in common? They both choke. Neither one can play football. Oh yeah. I mean, you're right. Oh, gosh, that's hilarious.
That's good. That's good.
What matchups are you liking this week?
Matchups that I like this week.
Do you think there's an upset this week?
Is there an upset set up this week?
Yeah, do you see like a potential upset this week?
Man, honestly, if I'm gonna pick a team to upset or to win an upset here, shoot, it it just might be the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, that's
Could happen, yeah.
it happened last year, and there looks like they're poised to have a good run this game. I mean, Kirk Cousins is playing pretty well. Him and Roger playing pretty similar right now. They're both averaging about 200, 280, 260 passing yards a game. Rodgers has 16 touchdowns with interception. Cousins has 16 with 5 interceptions. Passer rating is really similar. Kirk Cousins has the highest passer rating amongst QBs to make 8 head-to-head starts versus Aaron in playoffs. That might be an upset game sitting right there. Another one that could possibly happen, just based on how things have been going. Washington might upset Carolina. It's definitely possible.
I like their quarterback, man.
Because I mean, after how I saw them play against Tom Brady for 4 quarters, and that Bucs offense, I think anything's possible as far as the teams that they can play. I can definitely see them upsetting the Panthers after they upset the Bucs the way they did. It wasn't like it was a win by just 3 or 7. They won a significant game.
Brady. Have you heard about like Tyler Hennick's story?
No, I haven't.
Dude, it's freaking wild. Okay. Julie, I'm doing really well. Hope you're doing well. Bree said that's because being a Vikings fan is just edging for months at a time to end up disappointed. I mean, Bree, at least they're consistent. That's the way you gotta look at
it. You're consistent at something.
So Tyler Hennick, he was in the XFL, I believe it was. And he was actually staying with his sister and either her husband or like her boyfriend, and he was sleeping on their floor in like in their guest room or whatever, because they didn't have like a lot of stuff furnished, I guess, and didn't really have a lot of money. Ended up like playing, just kind of like chasing this dream to get in the NFL, and due to the issues and movements and stuff with Washington and their whole quarterback situation, like this is where he's at now. And he got activated and he's been killing it ever since. And his story is like really cool to see a guy who's just been, overlooked his whole entire career, never really been given a shot. And then it's kind of one of those things like this moment presented itself. He did the most he could with it, and this is where he's at. And he's actually like looking at his stuff for this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he is 19th, tied for 19th in the league with touchdowns at 12. He's tied 29th at 9 interceptions. QBR of 42, not great at all. He's 26th. He has 2,184 yards. His completion percentage is 65%, which isn't awful. But also, like, Washington's offenses struggled at times too.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're not like amazing like franchise numbers, but for this guy to like go from where he was to where he's at now, like,
Yeah.
it's a really cool story.
Yeah, I mean that's remarkable. I mean, it's hard enough to play quarterback in the NFL level, even when you are a first round draft pick, a high caliber profile player from college, something. So the fact that just where he's come from and what he's been able to do, and I mean beat Tom Brady, I mean there's a lot of good things to be proud of for him there. So that's pretty crazy story, and
Oh
that's
hell yeah!
definitely.
Um, dude, you're gonna think I'm nuts for saying that. I don't know why I feel this way either.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Lions are legit gonna get their first win this week.
Against Cleveland. I mean, it's
I legit think that.
Especially with how banged up Cleveland's not. Look, I don't want to say that.
It's hard. It's hard to even agree to that statement. I know.
I don't even, like. I don't want to say that getting a tie is necessarily anywhere near. Because to me personally, a tie, because it's not a win, it's still a loss to me. But I get it; it's not a loss, right? Because it's not marked that way.
Bro,
I don't want to say that it feels good like it does to win, but I mean, it definitely sure for them. And for some of them, it feels good not to lose again for the 9th week in a row.
do you know?
So they might be able to bring that momentum going forward, because the end of that Steelers overtime game was just really sloppy. The weather was sloppy.
Stupid,
The
yeah.
gameplay was sloppy. It was turnovers back and forth. They do have a shot at taking down the Browns, especially with the banged up Baker Mayfield.
Did you know
Out
that
there.
after that game, Najee Harris, they interviewed him and he actually like acknowledged that he didn't know you could tie in the NFL. He had no idea that you could actually tie in the NFL.
He just probably could imagine how he felt like when he just found out the game was over. He's just like,
Yeah.
"What? The game's
Like
over?"
no, like legit. Like he's just like,
Over?
I didn't know. Like he thought when they were gonna turn it over or whatever, it was just gonna go back and
Back to
time keep going. Yeah, no,
overtime. Yeah,
nope.
no, it's over.
Yeah. So it just goes to show you that professional athletes don't know what's going on half the time.
Yeah.
Bree, since you say you're a Minnesota fan, what do you think of the outcomes this week? Do you follow football like a lot? Oh, excuse me, I never said that. You said something like that. Hold on. Vikings edging. Because being a you said right here that's because being a Vikings fan. I interpret it as you were a Viking. You live in Vikings territory. My bad. I interpreted that as you were implying you were. You're just saying they're fans. That's fair. They would probably agree with you too. But my daddy is never giving up on them, so I've been watching them lose my whole life. Like I said, at least they're consistent. At least they're consistent.
Oh.
Bree, between Dallas and Kansas City, who's winning? Vector, I will straight up ban your ass.
Oh, man.
I will straight up ban you. I haven't watched much besides soccer the last few years, aside from the Super Bowl. So Dallas versus Kansas City. Who's winning that game? She said, "What's my options? I'll get my magic 8-ball." That's probably what most people do when they bet too. They pull out their magic 8-ball and.
I mean, it is crazy because Kansas is 6-4. They haven't played nowhere near as like they have the last few years, and Dallas is 7-2. But Dallas is still ranked the underdog.
Oh, that's just because they're at it. Arrowhead. What's the? Does it have the spread on it though?
That's a good question.
Kansas City, I think they're going to make more points in the end. I mean, if their offense plays the way they did last week, that could very well happen. Very well happen. Also, by the way, for all of you that are in here, okay, if you do not follow my TikTok, please go check it out. I am literally 3 people away from 1,000 followers. Would love to hit that milestone before 2020. Bro, I'm putting $100 on Dallas. Kansas City's favored by 2.5.
2.5. Yeah, it's
Honestly, that's by the time. Let me see this real quick. So you got cornerback questionable, injured reserve, Tyron Smith questionable, Greg Zerline out, Will Greer, CD Lamb questionable. I guarantee you, as like some of these questionables change to active, that spread will probably be even or close to even by game time
yeah.
because that's really close as it is right now. But if Dallas is getting points, I'm taking Dallas.
Yeah. It's gonna depend.
What's up, Johnny Bro?
So real quick before we run out of time and everything, what do you think about Odell Beckham and especially that poor performance?
Dude, so the first game, I'm gonna give him the first game or two because like that was a quick turnaround for him to go in there. I'm glad you brought that up though because the timing of him signing with the Rams, and then literally the next day they're like, "Oh, Robert Woods tore his ACL in practice."
That's crazy.
I was like, "Okay, they either already knew about this, and there was something like they were already aware of, and then they just like swung it as, oh, this happened in practice on Friday, or that is just like the biggest set of karma ever." For them to like go out and acquire this big star and stuff and try to stack their team, and then all of a sudden, bam, they lose like their main wide receiver they've had, which sucks. Like, I hope the guy has a speedy recovery because Robert Woods is very talented. He's very productive.
One of the best for sure.
But the whole timing of that situation of him getting signed and then literally not 24 hours later, their number one wide receiver tears his ACL. It's like, what? But as far as his performance, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, Stafford didn't play that well. They got to develop chemistry. It's their first game. That was a very quick, like, he got what? Signed Tuesday, Wednesday is when it, like, became official.
Yeah.
So I mean, you got.
Didn't even get to LA till maybe like Friday, Thursday.
Yeah. I mean, oh, no. I bet he's, like, out in LA that day. He was probably on a plane. But, I mean, you got to think about it, like, say he gets out there Thursday, like that's probably their last legit practice. Friday's probably more of a walkthrough.
Yeah.
Saturday's not going to really be much of a practice. So
I'm
more interested in this week's. Well, actually, I think they're off this week. What?
And don't get me wrong, I mean, the guy has tremendous ability. He's a dynamic player. I guess the thing that always like makes me have doubt in him is just because of the way that he can be as a person with his teammates. And yes. He can, basically, in a nutshell, he can be extremely selfish, an extremely selfish player. And some of the guys were talking about it. I was actually on First Take. They were talking about it, and then also with Skip Bayless and Shannon Show talking about it. There's a lot of times that even Baker Mayfield would mention that he's difficult to handle because one thing that he does that you just don't do for reason is like he'll run his own routes.
Yeah.
If the play asks you to run a post route, if he feels like, oh, I'm going to try to do a slant or something else, or a dig route. If he feels that's better, he just does it. And then I get the intention is of making a play or make something happen, but it doesn't. And then when things don't go his way, the way he wants them to, he starts throwing a fit. He starts talking smack, starts, even to the point where he's belittled his teammates. And, then you have stuff like in the Cleveland situation where his dad's tweeting, talking smack about his quarterback. And it just kind of seems like it's a repeating behavioral process from him. I get it. You're trying to be great. You have great ability, but you can't just go out there and be so selfish to just do whatever the heck you want because you think that, oh, well, I'm going to do something better than when they call a play in football, you run that play and you run that route, whether you're losing, whether you're getting double teamed, whether, you know what I mean? And it just kind of seemed like in that Rams game, it was just like sometimes he was like, oh, I'm covered. Screw it. Let me just slow down or let me stop running my route. Because he did do that a couple times. And I mean, hey, I don't know. Maybe he just thought that it was a different route. Maybe he doesn't know the system yet, but I don't know. I guess I'm curious to see if this is going to be the same old Odell with his bad attitude and selfishness, or if it's just legitimately because, like you said, he just got there. He hasn't learned the offense yet. But
I will say
That's one of the
this:
problems that they're having with him in Cleveland and in New York.
they do have a bye this week, which is going to help them out a lot.
Yeah.
Black and Dragon, what up, bro? Hey, I appreciate the tab, man. And Bree, thank you for the follow. They do have a bye this week, and Sean McVay, he definitely knows how to use his weapons and get them incorporated into the game plan. So the fact that they have a bye this week, and it was a really quick turnaround for him this past week, I'm more interested to see in this next game. Okay, what is he going to come out and actually do and produce? Because that, I feel like, is going to be a big indicator of, yeah, this is problem child Odell that everybody's dealt with and just passed him along to the next team. Or, okay, he actually realizes, hey, I'm part of a franchise that can compete for a Super Bowl. Let's get this done.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely going to be way too early to tell, though, with Odell, because you know how he is, man. Guy's a stud on the field when he wants to be, and he can be very dynamic, but then he's also a guy that walks off the field and gets his ass kicked by a field goal net,
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So, dude, when he fought that field goal net and lost, I died.
Hilarious. I don't think anyone will ever forget that, him fighting with the field goal post because he's mad.
Stupid.
It's the level of toxicity of his side antics.
He's so dumb. Let's go wrap it up for us this week. Okay, we'll be back every Wednesday chat. Usually around this time, if we're not going live around 4 o'clock, we'll usually be going a little bit later in the evening, around 8:15 Eastern Standard Time. Little Jacob is central of me, so he's about an hour behind. And I want to thank Little Jacob for taking the time to do this too. I know you're technically working and stuff, but thank you for making the time during the day. Once again, for all of you that are new, I am Selfless_gaming. You can find me on Twitch, obviously, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. If you do not follow my TikTok, I would greatly appreciate a follow. I am literally 3 away from 1,000. That was a goal I had for myself this year.
Nice.
2021, hoping to reach that. Then Little Jacob, go ahead and close us out, brother.
Yes, as well. TikTok, Twitch, and Twitter. And also, I can't believe I forgot the beginning of the podcast because I'm trying to build it up. YouTube as well. I'm starting up the YouTube channel, trying to get the clips going. And the whole thing, the whole subbing is free, so that's the best part. But yeah, feel free to reach out to me on any of those platforms, whether to discuss sports, play games, or what have you. And we will definitely get something going, and definitely look forward to next week to do our thing here before the big turkey day.
All right, we appreciate y'all.